You're listening to The Snipers Club. I'm your host, The Sniper, and tonight we're joined by Matty and Tom from the Wigan Way podcast for a special episode looking ahead to Origin 1 on Wednesday and then the Challenge Cup final next weekend. And guys, we're covering more and more Super League ourselves, so if any of the Wigan Way listeners would like to check us out or find out a bit more, then please do Google the Snipers Club Linktree, and you'll find all our socials and access to our free Discord. And we've got a growing community there, and we'd love to have you guys have a look, check it out, and be part of the group. So we're going to kick off, guys, with Origin 1. Welcome, Tom. Welcome, Matty. How's it going, guys?
Not too bad, mate. Thank you for having us on.
Pleasure. Good to have you back on. So it's been a strange weekend. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on what happened yesterday between Warrington and Wigan. Mental.
Really crazy game. But yeah, a lot to talk about it.
Yeah. Do you think this Burgess factor is real?
It's got to be seen in the big games. Obviously, the final next week, and that's going to be the biggest test of his coaching career so far.
Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting to see how he performs in that.
Yeah, it looks like he's taking some of what he's learned in Australia back with him, with a vengeance, right?
Yeah, definitely. Brought a lot over and changing the way that Warrington have played.
Yeah.
He's a winner as well, isn't he? Which is what Warrington have missed for quite a while. Yeah. He's just a winner. Big
time. Now his brother's going to come next year, isn't he?
Yeah, over to Huddersfield. I thought it was written for him to go to Warrington with his brother, but he's signed at Huddersfield.
Yeah. Just before we kick off with Origin, guys, last time we spoke, we had a chat about Smithies and Kai Pearce-Ball.
Yeah.
How do you think they've done so far? Because I'm curious to see if your thoughts align with ours.
Well, for me, it was interesting to see Smithies make the team of the round in the first couple of weeks, a couple of times in the first 3 weeks, which was really positive for us to see. But the information is that they're holding their own and they're doing enough. They're not seen as a weak link or anything like that. They're holding their own and they're in there on quality.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched Smithies pretty much every week, and Canberra, especially the last few weeks, have been really, really good. They look like they're a team on the up. He's been really good in defence, but I think he started losing concentration the last couple of weeks. So if you play Supercoach, which is like, fantasy, his scores have started to drop. I think he is effective, but he's just been having sort of brain snaps or brain freezes at quite important parts in games. Was that something that was a theme when he was playing for you guys?
It's less likely to go punished, I suppose, in Super League because there's fewer high-intensity games. It could be a possibility that when you move over to the NRL, you've got what we would call an NRL intensity game every single week, whereas here you'd have one or two every month, so it's possible you could get burnt out by that.
Yeah, so you're talking about games against Saints, Catalans,
Yeah, Saints, Catalan, Warrington, Leeds, if it's a good Leeds side, you only have to get up for probably 7 or 8 of them a year.
Yeah.
And the rest you can sort of coast. So it's less, you're less likely to make a sort of a mental error from being too burnt out, I suppose.
Yeah. If you're looking at teams this season like London Broncos or Hull FC, you're not going to get punished for that brain freeze, are you? They're just not going to be able to do anything. Yeah.
No, definitely not. There's considerably a few teams that are struggling in this year's league.
Yeah. And then moving on to Kai Pearce-Ball, I think at the beginning of the season in the NRL, he was sort of hailed as the second coming of the Messiah. We were pretty impressed early on in the season, and he looks good. But I think the thing that I saw was that he really needed to work on his combination with Kalen Ponga. He just wasn't getting ball. He was making loads and loads of decoy runs. He had, all the potential in the world, but obviously it takes time to build that partnership and for them to have that, understanding between them. So he still hasn't scored a try, I don't think.
It's definitely not going to help him. Obviously, the Ponga injury now, with that combination, the fact that it's now a bit of a change until Ponga's back. but it could take a while for that partnership to flourish. But I do think it'll be a real positive one once it does.
I've seen a bit of clamour for Will Price to start playing in the halves for them. He's another young player from Super League. Maybe if he could get involved, he's a bit more of a runner. I just think you could sort of use Kai Pearce-Paul with his offloading game a bit more if you're the Knights. Try and get him in and around, trying to get bodies around him. So when he does take those carries, he can bring in the other players around him, because there's definitely dynamic, quick players around him that could benefit from his offloading game. Just feels like he's a bit more restricted.
It's true. They haven't worked that out yet. They haven't even tried anything like a Melbourne Storm wraparound play. Do you think that's something that he'd be able to carry off?
Yeah, his hands are incredible, and he was always going for an offload when he was at Wigan. So I think I was surprised not to see him use that more so far.
Yeah. And then Armstrong came in at fullback. He's played really well for 2 games, and then he had a bludger of a game last weekend.
Yeah.
And he scored an amazing hat-trick. He even runs like Caelan Connor. But again, that understanding isn't there yet. I think it was slightly better than it was with Ponga. But his runs looked a little bit powder puff, Kai Pearce-Paul. Like he didn't believe he was actually going to break the line and score.
It's interesting, he was never really a line buster when he played for us. He was an offloader.
Right.
He was drag 4 men into the tackle and put like a Jai Field through. You know, get somebody outside him, get somebody on his shoulder while he drags the bodies in.
Yeah. It's an interesting one. And then you guys also said he was pretty good in the high ball. Was he scoring Jeremiah Nanai type tries?
Crossfield kicks for him where he was just getting up for them.
I was going to say it was that pat back. He wasn't necessarily claiming the ball and scoring himself, but patting the ball back to a centre or a winger, someone inside of him, for us to score off the back of that.
Oh, yeah, we did play that.
Because I don't think they've tried that much either. That hasn't been a tactic at all. They've looked fairly one-dimensional at times, Newcastle.
I was going to say,
I thought they were the other night.
From what I've seen of him, they've not used that threat particularly well when it's there, and it's quite obvious. He's such a tall player, such a tall person. It's an obvious threat, and it doesn't seem to have been used particularly much.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll keep an eye on him, guys, and it's always good to check in. Before we move on to Origin, what about some of the Aussie players in the NRL and the Super League? Is there anyone that's caught your eye particularly, other than the amazing skills of Bevan French?
Yeah, well, Bevan's got 13 tries, 13 try assists, but I think for me, Matt Dufty's been incredible. Been absolutely outstanding. He's run it all for Warrington. Peet Hiku has been pretty good as well. Now he's moved to centre.
Yeah.
He started off the season at full-back, and they had Niall Evalds on the wing, who's a pretty good Super League full-back, and we were saying for ages, like, you've got to put Evalds to full-back, and you've got to put Hiku to the centres, and ever since they've done that, Hiku's been pretty good.
Right. Is he scoring tries as well?
Yeah, so he's Hull KR's top try scorer. He's got 9 in the league.
Because I think he was fading quite badly at the Cowboys towards the end of his career, and I think it was blatantly obvious he needed a new challenge. So it's good to hear that he's rekindled.
Yeah, it was definitely a strange one for Hiku to then be at fullback. We had an opinion that he'd come over and do a very good job at centre.
Yeah.
And a lot of the talk before the season was that he was going to play fullback, and he's obviously got given the number 1 shirt, which says he's going to play fullback for you, and it was a big surprise. But that change probably came around round 5, round 6, and Hull KR have been a better team for that.
Okay.
There's a few sort of more unknowns, certainly for us, that have kind of got contracts next season. A couple for Lee Leopards, Kai O'Donnell and Tom Amone have both got NRL jobs for next year. They've both been fantastic for Lee through this year, just making tons of meters, making tons of tackles. And when Amone was injured, Lee missed him loads. But I think if you asked a Lee Leopards fan, they'd probably say their best players have been Kai O'Donnell and Matt Moylan. So it's
Matt Moylan, wow, he's done it as well.
Matt Moylan's been pretty good since he's come in and playing in the halves, and then, like I said, O'Donnell has been fantastic.
Yeah, Moylan made the move to fullback about 4 weeks ago due to an injury, and he's been very impressive at fullback.
Yeah.
Because he was getting exposed quite badly at the Sharks in defence.
Yeah. He's got some decent defenders around him for Lee.
Yeah. All right, let's move on slightly, guys. How come Jay Fields only got, has it one try so far this season? I looked at it yesterday.
Yeah, one try, 12 try assists. He's had a couple where he's given the ball almost when he could have scored himself. A few strange tries where he's passed it to Lee. I remember him passing one to Adam Kieran where he was basically over the line himself, where he should have scored. He's missed a few games with a rib injury. I just think he's been every team's defensive key, and so he's been shut down every game. But that has almost given more space to Bevan French and Harry Smith to create for others. So I think maybe we're not necessarily seeing Fields score as many tries as he usually does, but Wigan as a team are still scoring as many tries as we usually do. I think the slack's been picked up elsewhere because teams are focusing in on field more.
Interesting. Do you think we'll start to see him score more tries?
Yeah, I heard that he'd been carrying a rib injury at the start of the season, and he was going through the process of playing with an injury and how to manage his game. And in the last 4 or 5 weeks, he's looked a little bit more like himself, a little bit quicker turn of foot, quicker off the mark. And as Matty said, he has been that threat out the back. And we've scored a lot of tries through people trying to shut him down and leaving a gap elsewhere. I think in the next 4 to 5 weeks you'll see the best of Field.
You'll have to give more space to him due to the emergence of Junior and Sember as a try scorer. He's going to require more focus. He scored a great try yesterday. He scored in the last 3 games, and he's a real threat off the short ball, which should give Field some more space. It can open up. It's another threat. So yeah, I think we'll see more. Wembley suits somebody like Jay Field as well. Big open pitch.
Okay, fingers crossed for that. Tom, what about the much maligned Wonga Blake? I mean, he was having a nightmare in the NRL. There were sort of crazy memes and videos going around about him running away from bombs after being absolutely dominated by those Cleary ones. He completely lost his confidence. And now he's come to Super League and he's absolutely killing it, isn't he?
Yeah, he had a very relatively... apologies. He had a very slow start at the beginning of the season. He got dropped and ended up playing in the reserve team for a week due to a disciplinary issue, if I remember right. And there was a lot of talk about whether Saints were going to let him go within the first 6 or 7 weeks. The last 6 to 7 weeks again, he's definitely found a bit more fitness. He's punching holes, taking the ball in, and he's now a real threat. So probably a tale of two halves for him at the start of this season.
He's playing on the wing, isn't he?
Yeah, he's playing on the wing now. Obviously, he started off at centre and he changed a lot of positions. He played left wing, right wing, and I think he played right centre as well at one point. So there was a lot of moving parts for him there. So since he's settled down a little bit and the team settled down, he's started to develop into his own.
Is he one of the top try scorers so far?
Yeah. He's in the top. I suppose he's in the top 10, top 20 try scorers. Wellesby's got more for them, but and Makinson's got more, but he's still in the top 15, yeah. I think.
Okay, cool. And then 2 others that I kept an eye on over the last few weeks. Herman Ese'ese, he was good the other night.
Yeah. He's he got the man of the match the other night, and he obviously Hull FC have had the problems at the start of the season, and they've really struggled. He's probably been the standout overseas signing. The other 2 that they've brought in have gone out on loan to the Championship, in Ockenbaugh and Franklin Pele. But Herman Ese'ese has really led a pack that struggled, and he's stood up really, really, really well.
And he's a really big try threat as well. He's carried that over really well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he's a
very
big body.
impressed.
He's tough to stop close to the line. Yeah.
Then the other one, ex-Melbourne Storm player Tariq Sims, because he's gone to Catalan, right?
Yeah. Sims has been putting himself about in defence a lot. There was a crushing tackle on George Williams that went viral early in the season, and I think they could use him more with the ball. But in terms of his defence, he's been really good, really solid.
Again on Sims, he has changed position quite a bit. He played left second row, right second row. He was used down the middle, but he started to settle in on that left second row. So he's a player I can see improving again and getting better as the season goes on.
Yeah, he's a gun. I think he'll do really well in time. So definitely keep an eye out for, a bit more of a try threat from him as well.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to Origin, guys, and then come back onto the Challenge Cup final?
Yeah.
Awesome. So Origin starts on Wednesday. The venue's Accor Stadium in Sydney, and we've got Ashley Klein as the ref and Liam Kennedy in the bunker. There's a high chance of showers forecast for the game, but nothing too heavy at this stage. So if we look back at last year, Queensland won Game 1 by 26 points to 18. That was in Adelaide. Queensland also won Game 2. That was by 32 points to 6 at Suncorp. And then New South Wales won Game 3, 24-10 at Accor. And obviously we've lost Freddie Fittler as the coach. There's a new coach who's come in, Madge Maguire, if you like. So it'll be all eyes on him over the course of Wednesday. And there were a couple of interesting omissions to the team, so we'll have a look at those. The main one is David Fifita not being selected for Queensland. Have you guys been watching Fifita this season?
Yeah, he's always a threat. I can understand why Slater hasn't picked him in terms of the fact that he drifts in and out of games, and is that what you want in an Origin?
Yeah.
Slater's obviously decided that's not the type of second rower that he wants, and I can understand it.
I think he's been. It always takes him quite a long time to build into the season. Yeah. I don't think he started training at the same time as everyone else. He was carrying an injury. It took him 3 or 4 games to get going. He then had 2 or 3 stunning games. And then the whole sort of defensive crisis of the Titans meant that, all was not well within the team. But they've, really dug in. I think Slater's spoken about him not being up for all the extra 1%ers that you need to do. So
that's a big statement from Slater to say about a player. And everyone knows that's what wins your big games, them 1%ers. So to see that he's made that statement probably tells you why he hasn't picked David Fifita.
Okay, but he's picked Nanai. Does Nanai do those 1%ers defensively?
Well, I was surprised that he didn't pick Kafusi, just because he's done it before and he's so reliable. I'm surprised that he went with Sewer and Nanai as the second rowers, but Nanai is X Factor.
Yeah,
and he's got that X Factor. I think the Titans have really improved over the last few weeks, and I do think Fifita's been playing well. I think if you had a pack full of David Fifitas, you'd be a pretty good side.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So if we look back at his last 3 games for Queensland, he got 71 minutes in Game 1, he got 49 minutes in Game 2, then he only got 33 minutes in Game 3. So, he's been on a downward trajectory, and I think the New South Wales fans are delighted that they haven't got to worry about a rampaging Fifita.
Yeah, I'm sure Joseph Soali is as well.
Yeah, I think he would have absolutely monstered him, wouldn't he?
It's not a bad replacement to bring in, though, in Nanai. He's a really big threat himself.
But he's a threat, yes. But if you look at his defensive stats, he's up there in terms of tries caused. But I don't think he's not going to play the full 80, is he?
No, I don't think he'll play the full 80. It's a big call. It's a really, really big call not to pick Fifita.
Yeah.
And
then we had the... Yeah, sorry, mate. Carry on.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, and it's going to be one of them that if it comes off and Queensland win, everyone says that it was a masterstroke. If they lose, that'll probably be the big talking point.
Yeah. And then just going back to New South Wales, we've got Jake Trebojevic as captain I think that's great. It's good to see. He looks pretty good in that tight jersey of his. I don't know if you guys saw that online. It's slightly bulging at the belly.
No,
He's an
I'm
unusual
not.
shape, isn't he, Jake? He's an unusual shape.
He looks like he's had a few six packs, but it was good to see a slightly different body on there. So big welcome to him. Hopefully he does really well. And then we had drama this weekend with Dylan Edwards getting injured and James Tedesco apparently being recalled. What did you guys make of that? Let's kick off with Matty.
Well, yeah, I was surprised initially that Tedesco was left out altogether. I thought he might have been named on the extended bench, or just so he was around there for the experience. And then he was going to play for the Roosters this morning, and then all of a sudden, the day of the game, he's not playing for the Roosters. He's back in the blue jumper on Wednesday. It's a shame for Edwards, because we were really impressed with Edwards when he came over and played in the World Cup Challenge. He's been fantastic for the last few years. Tedesco, I think, will have a point to prove on Wednesday.
Yeah, what do you make of it, Tom?
Yeah, I'm a massive fan of Dylan Edwards, and I thought he probably should have been in the squad last year. I thought he's massively deserved his opportunity, and it's a real shame for him to pick up an injury. But James Tedesco's got all the experience in the world at that level, and as you said then, Matty, he's got a point to prove, and to earn that shirt for Game 2 and Game 3.
I mean, I'm not a massive Tedesco fan. I think over the course of last season, especially towards the end of it, it looked like he was, a horse that should be retired to stud. The effort areas weren't there. He's obviously tired. Probably too much impact over the years. He played the World Cup. He then went and played the Pacific Championships and everything else. He looked like he was done. So I was a massive advocate for Edwards coming back. And then over the course of this season, game in, game out, he's been a 9 out of 10 for the Roosters and leading from the front. So I've had to swallow my words about him. I would still pick Edwards every day of the week because he's unbelievable.
Yeah, I agree with you
about Crichton going to fullback and Burton coming in, but I think Tedesco coming straight into fullback and keep Toto and Crichton together is the right thing for Madge to have done.
Yeah, these experiments you often see in the international game, I think you lose quite a bit by moving Crichton to fullback.
Yeah.
It's just not as effective. And he's such a big game origin player that you need to have a weapon like him. Now the question with Crichton is which side are they going to play in? What do you guys reckon?
I think he'll be with Toto, whatever side he plays. He'll be with Toto. And then that probably means he's going against the Hammer, which would be very exciting.
Now, I disagree entirely. What do you reckon, Tom?
No, I thought he'd go alongside the Toto side, up against the Hammer.
Really?
Especially, yeah.
I don't think he can.
You get told all the time about that side being amazing.
I don't think he can. I think it's so imbalanced if you do that. So on our crib sheet, we've got half-back Nico, right centre Crichton, right wing Lomax. And then we've got left wing To'o, left centre Suali'i, and 5/8 Luai. The issue you've got there is if you've got Lomax that's notoriously poor in defence. Suali'i gets found out at the Roosters all the time as well. So if you put them together, you're going to have such a weak edge there on the right-hand side that the Hammer is going to rip them to shreds, and that's without Reece Walsh running rings around them as well. So I think you're forced to play Crichton right centre, Lomax right wing, Suali'i left centre, and To'o on the left, because the To'o and Crichton are good defenders. The other two just aren't.
So they're good defenders, so split them up, you mean, one on each side?
You have to. I think otherwise they're going to get absolutely rinsed down that side, and Hammer, Walsh, and Tuolungi are going to absolutely destroy them. If he makes that mistake, I don't think he will, but I don't think this is a contest. I think it's that bad. So that's something to keep an eye on as the teams come out, guys. But I do understand what you're saying about going back to the Penrith glory days. They all understand each other. It's logical. The combinations are developed, but from the team selection, it just doesn't really work.
No matter
I'd love
how
to see
strong
it.
you make that side, you'd then be weakening the other side.
100%.
Yeah.
I'd love to see it, because I'd love to see that Penrith combination back, and I'd love to see Crichton and Toto next to each other, and I'd love to try and see Crichton trying to expose, weaknesses in someone like DCE, because that's where one of the soft spots are for Queensland. But that's something to keep an eye on. The other thing to consider, guys, is what happens. Let's ask Tom this question. If Nico goes down again in the first 20 minutes, what's the plan there?
Well, I think that's causing a massive worry straight away.
Yeah.
Looking at the bench for New South Wales, there's not an obvious change there. Hudson Young, mainly a second rower.
Yeah.
Whether he would go in at centre potentially to allow one of the centres to go in the halves would be an option. But again, looking at the bench, New South Wales, I think there's a worry there that if they do pick up an injury in a key position, they might be filling in at a substandard level.
Yeah. What do you make of it, Matty?
It's a big bench. It's a very big bench. There's really no cover, and I don't see any of them 4 bench players slotting in anywhere apart from maybe, like Tom just said, Young into the centres. And then it's a question, who do you then put in? Like, what do you end up with? Lomax in the halves, or Crichton in the halves, Tedesco in the halves? It's around pegging a square hole then, isn't it? Whereas if you look at Queensland's bench, they cover a lot more. So if there's no injuries, you'd want to be New South Wales, but if one of them goes down in the first half, all of a sudden you're kicking yourself. Yeah,
so he's building a rod for his own back, the new coach, Madge Maguire. If this does happen, again, I think they're going to get annihilated. It's going to be really, really ugly. So I don't know why he's done that. Can you think of any logical reason why he'd try and do that and not make sure that Burton's there on the bench?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Obviously, Madge was at Wigan and is very strong about the way that you play the game, strong defensively, run hard, tackle hard. I thought Burton would be in the 17, giving you that option. He can fill in at centre. Did that very well at Penrith. He knows the role well. He's played centre at Origin. Half back by trade, so he could fill in if you pick up an injury there. That obviously then covers for a potential Tedesco injury with maybe like a Crichton going at full back. Having Burton on that bench almost solves a lot of New South Wales' potential problems.
Yeah.
I personally would have had Burton on that bench spot.
Yeah.
But that's the way Madge likes to play. He likes to be strong, likes to be solid in defence and bully teams and try and be strong in that fight.
Yeah. He could move McInnes to half-back, or even Isaiah Yeo to half-back, and then Hudson Young could move to centre. That doesn't sound particularly good.
No, I would be worried if that's the position that they come to. I'd like to think they've already got a plan for it, if that was to happen. But I would be worried if Isaiah Yeo was potentially needed in the halves.
Yeah. Looking back at Hudson Young last year, he got taken off after about half an hour in Adelaide. Didn't come back on. Then they picked Tavita Pangai Jr. as well. He got small minutes. Stefano Utokumanu only got 12 minutes at Suncorp. So they've taken these players, but did they even need to be there? I mean, I don't understand the selection policy there.
As I said then, I'm looking at the bench and I'm struggling to see how you get all of them on.
Yeah.
For long spells. Obviously, it looks like McInnes will go into 9 and Yeo come off the bench. I thought Yeo was a lock-in to start anyway, but with that size of that bench and players like Payne Haas, Jake Trbojevic, who play long minutes for the club, it's going to be interesting to see how they all get on. You look at the second rowers in Martin and Crichton. How long are they going to be off the field to get someone like a Hudson Young on? I'm not certain they'd be off that much in a game.
So let's have a look at the Queensland team there. So we've got Tuolungi left wing, Hammer left centre, Dearden 5/8, halfback DCE, Holmes right centre, Coates right wing. And that looks fairly settled there. But let's have a look at their cover. They've got numerous players that can play multiple positions. So if one of their players goes down, there's not going to be any sort of issue. Ben Hunt being number one, stopgap.
Yeah, and then the Swiss Army knife is Jermaine Hopgood can play loads of different places. I think you can play through the middle, and you can play second row if you need him to. So I think once you bring Harry Grant on, and I'd like to see Harry Grant do big minutes, but then what do you do with Ben Hunt? But I think Hopgood can play almost anywhere in the pack.
I think Harry Grant will come on after 20, guys, for sure. So after that absolute wall for the first 20 minutes, they've then got to deal with Harry Grant, which is a complete nightmare.
There's so many options when you look at the Queensland bench, and it feels so obvious that if there's an injury to the outside backs, if there's an injury in the halves, what you would do, where you're looking at New South Wales in comparison, and you're asking questions straight away.
Yeah, this is a good time to bring this in. Looking at the last, I think it's 6 or 7 Origin games, historically, there's been an 83% chance of a half going down in a game. This is actually, it's a general stat for rugby league, I think, over the last few years. So there's an 83% chance of a half going down. Sorry, of an outside back going down over the course of a game. Do you know what percentage of teams actually win outside when one of those outside backs goes down?
I bet it's not many.
What would you guess?
1 in 5, 20%?
No. 10%.
Oh, wow.
That's how much the game's changed over the last few years. So doing what Maguire's done, it's potentially quite suicidal.
Yeah, I think Madge will be looking at it though, possibly looking at the Queensland bench with Grant and Cobbo, and maybe thinking that they've got the stronger bench in terms of being able to win that middle battle.
Power.
So that's the way that Madge is going to look at it. But I do agree that bench is a worry.
Yeah, he's not even legislating for HIA risk.
Mm-hmm.
That's another. I mean, you've got to take that into account. Obviously, Slater has.
Tedesco's got a poor record with his HIAs.
Yeah.
So I thought there would be one option though on the bench.
And you can only bring Burton in for a HIA if it's foul play, right? So realistically, there's not going to be many chances to bring Burton on. It's going to have to be a very specific scenario.
Yeah.
Do you guys think, let's ask Matty this one, do you think Sualihi's better position is on the wing rather than at centre?
Well, I haven't seen much of him at centre. I've been really impressed with him whenever I've seen him on the wing. I thought he was okay, not amazing when he played fullback over here in the World Cup 2 years ago, but he's obviously matured a lot since then. So I'm interested to see how he goes. Lomax, we've always known as a centre who's now playing on the wing and playing pretty well. I don't know if there could be a curveball and these two could switch places perhaps, but I'm interested to see how it goes. I was expecting Burton to be named there, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah. I think the issue I have with Lomax is he's always liable to try and play a glory ball, some insane cutout pass like he's done for the Dragons a couple of times, which Hunt scored from this season. And that gets intercepted by the Hammer for a runaway try, or by Reece Walls for a runaway try. So I probably wouldn't have picked Lomax. He's been picked on form, but he had a clanger in the last game for the Dragons. And I just don't think it's the right selection. What do you guys think?
It's a big call. It is a big call to bring him in. He's only played wing for a dozen games, maybe, if that.
Yeah.
I think it's a huge, huge call, especially when you've got somebody like Sualihi who has played a lot more on the wing and who's a fantastic winger. Yeah, I suppose Maguire he's bringing his own stamp on this, and this is his team, and that's why he's made so many changes. And he says he's picking players on form, but I do think that his Origin reputation will hang on the performance of players like Zach Lomax and like Jake Travoy, which is captain, and like McInnes.
Yeah. Okay, guys, let's just move. What do you think the plan is for Cobbo? Because he said he's going to find a specific role for him. Is that a smokescreen, or what do you think he's going to do that?
Well, we were discussing this before, and obviously Slater had come out and said that he had a plan for Reece Walsh and Ponga to get them both in the same side. And I think this is a case of obviously Ponga's gone down, and he's realised that he can use Cobbo in that similar role. I would expect maybe a bit of a shuffle, one of them to slot in at 13, and try and bring a little bit of maybe X factor or a bit of pace to the middle. But I don't think he's picked Cobbo just for an injury. I think there's a plan there, and as cover, as you mentioned about the injuries, to fill in if one of the centres or the wingers goes down. Yeah.
Okay, let's have a look at a couple of stats, guys, and then we'll move on to our predictions for Origin, if that's all right. These are some stats that we had a look at over the course of last season. Historically, there have only been 2 games that have ever ended in a draw in Origin after 80 minutes, and that hasn't happened for absolutely ages. So could this be the one? I think we're overdue on those. Queensland had won 38 of 59 matches played at Suncorp. Queensland had never won a series when the captain of both Origin sides are from the same NRL team. Val Holmes needs 5 tries to equal the record for most tries in Origin, which is 18 set by Greg Inglis. And only 6 of the last 14 Origin games have had a margin of 10 points or less, a winning margin of 10 points or less. All right, let's move on. So, Matty, what's your prediction for this game? Who's your man of the match? And what score are you going to predict? So, I'm looking for winner, score, man of the match.
Okay. I think it's going to be close. I think to do man of the match first, I think somebody like Patrick Carrigan could be huge. Starts at 13, move to prop, and maybe do an hour of this game. I think he could be absolutely enormous for them. I think Queensland are going to win, but I think it's going to be real close. I think it could be something like an 18-14 sort of score, I think.
Carrigan, Queensland, 18-14, yeah? Cool. All right, Tom, what have you got?
I'm going to go pretty opposite to that. I'm going to go New South Wales. Again in a close game, something like 14-10.
Yeah.
And I think one of the second rowers, I'm going to go with Liam Martin to be the man of the match.
All right. I'm going to go... I'm going to say it's going to go to Golden Point. It's going to end 18-all. It's going to go to Golden Point. Then New South Wales are going to win in Golden Point with a Nico kick. But the man of the match is going to be... this is tough. Sorry, guys. I'm going to have to give it to Nico Hines. I don't really like Nico Hines, but if he's going to kick that winning field goal, he's going to be bloody man of the match, isn't he? Can't really do anything about that.
No, right. You usually get man of the match if you kick the winning drop goal.
I know, nightmare. So I've dug my own grave there. Not a Nico fan. I think he's a luxury player. I don't see it. And he's kicked out. If you've watched the last 5, probably 4 Sharks games, he's been kicking balls out on the full every game, multiple times.
It's always interesting, isn't it, how the form before the Origin rounds are. And Nico was playing really, really well at the start of the season, and then he's sort of struggled the last couple of weeks. I think he'll do well at Origin this time. It's just a feeling.
Yeah. Would you have him in your team, or would you choose a different player in his position?
I think obviously if Cleary's fit, Cleary plays.
Yeah, for sure.
I thought that Moses was going to be picked. I thought Moses was going to get in there, based off his record there. He's played that environment a little bit more, and I think his long kicking was going to get Moses in. I think it's probably the brave call to go Nico.
Moses was excellent the weekend. Did you see him come back?
Yeah, he was brilliant.
Wow.
And if I was Madge, I'd be looking at that, maybe umming and ahhing about whether you've made the right choice after that performance. I know he's just come back out of injury, but to play so well.
Okay, cool. Guys, let's see how that goes, and let's move on. So, Matty, if you don't mind, let's start with Warrington. Let's go back a couple of games, not this weekend, but the weekend just before that. They went to Perpignan, played Catalans. It was the Warrington first team. What did you make of that performance?
Yeah, it was a great performance, real gritty performance, especially in defence. Catalan have had the struggles with the ball, but they are really, really difficult to break down and to beat in France, notoriously. They've won every game in France this year. They only lost 2 there last year, and this was a big, big win. Burgess described this as Warrington's best win of the season. I would say the cup quarter-final against Saints at St Helens was slightly better, and it was a more complete performance with the ball. But to go away to Catalan and to win gives that side credentials that they didn't already have.
Okay. I have a slightly different take on this. Sure, they dug in. Sure, there was spirit. Sure, they had to. It was backs to the wall stuff when they were down a man. When was the standing off? Or what, about 26, 27 minutes gone? Yeah. Something like that. Man, Catalan hammered the door down, but just had no creativity to try and unlock the defence, did they? Arthur Morg was fumbling the ball.
Yeah, I have an issue with Catalan, and that's related down to their spine. Too many changes, too many different combinations. For my personal liking, I think I read that it was the 9th different spine that they'd had in the first 13, 14 rounds, and that's obviously going to mess with your creativity.
And Tom Johnston wants out as well.
Well, he's already signed. He signed with Wakefield for next season, who obviously in the Championship at the moment, but are flying. Another one, Mike McMeekin, who is at Catalan, has also signed for Wakefield for next season. So I expect a lot of changes there.
Right. Do you think that they're going to be a team in decline, or do you think they're just going to have to rebuild again?
I think it's going to be a massive rebuild there. There's a couple of guys getting on a little bit as well. Jordan Abdul is not re-signing after his loan deal ends. So they lost a lot of players last year. Mitch Pearce, Sam Tompkins are obviously 2 massive players to lose from your spine, and I think they're probably going to lose 2 or 3 more from really crucial positions.
Right. So the game continues. Catalan try and score, ineffective. Gets to 77 minutes. Left-hand corner. Ball goes down. Try or no try? I mean, I had my own view of that. This insufficient evidence rule. You just want to unpick all the bodies. What did you guys make of it? Tom, why don't you let us know?
Well, first of all, just to mention that rule, obviously we're in a different situation to what it is in the NRL. Mainly because it's the first season we've had video refs at every game. So we always had this. You give a try or no try on field. It's very hard to overturn the on-field decision.
How did it go up as no try, is my question. The guy's like half a foot over.
I don't know. The referee had the best view of it, so we've got to go off his opinion, but it's so hard to overturn those tries. It's too difficult to overturn them, you would say.
What about? Is there ever a little bit of ref bias in France for the English team? I don't know, I'm asking you just from your experience.
I wouldn't say so. I think, again, you could argue the home advantage. Catalan's a very difficult place to go to, and it's very loud, very passionate fans. So you could argue that has an influence on the referee. No, I don't think there's any bias.
Okay. All right. Now, just guys, let's go back into Warrington a bit because we've sort of diverged into Catalans here. What have you made of Matty, Drinkwater, and Williams?
Drinkwater was dropped originally at the start of the season, and in came a very young halfback called Leon Hayes, who was fantastic and partnered really well with Williams. He's out for at least 12 months with a really serious lower leg injury, and Drinkwater's come back in and it's been seamless. The transition, he's been really great since he came back. Totally different to the player who was initially dropped. He's come in and he's been decent. I think the fans will be worried about his defence, particularly going against some of Wigan's edge players and our second rowers coming up this week. But I think the big criticism of him before he was dropped was with the ball and sort of stutter in the attack, and since he's come back he's been a lot better.
Yeah. And what about Williams?
Williams is a star. Williams is probably top 3 players in the league for me, up there with Bevan French and with Jack Wellsby. Williams is absolutely fantastic. I love him in an England shirt. I loved him when he played for Wigan and Canberra. It's hard to hate him now, even when he plays for Warrington, one of our rivals, but he's a real superstar. His running threat, when he can get outside your shoulder, is really, really top. He can defend. He's an excellent defender, and he runs the game. His short kicking game is amazing.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on from the Catalans game. So we move on to what actually happened yesterday. You guys faced basically the Warrington Wolves reserves. Tom, what did you make of yesterday? There's quite a lot to unpack here because there were like 4-5 different chunks of the game, if you like, which just felt like entirely different games.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot you could split it up into, probably split the first half into 2 and same again with the second. Obviously both teams had rested a lot. I think Warrington Wolves rested 8 and we'd rested 6. So that obviously affects how the game flows, and there was a weird feeling before the game. It's not often you play the team you're going to play in a final the week before, and I think that sort of went into the game itself. Everyone was just a bit almost preoccupied with next week, and that really flowed into the game, if I'm being honest.
Were you there?
No, I couldn't make it this week.
Because it started really badly, didn't it?
Yeah. Two tries against Wigan, 2 tries for Warrington. Almost felt like we didn't really start the game. Warrington came out with obviously a few new bodies in there and trying to earn a spot at Wembley. They came out to impress and they really started well and probably caught us napping.
Yeah. Nasemba looked good. He looked like he may have got injured, right? But he was really strong. He scored one, didn't he?
Yeah. I think he's okay. He's come into the... He's 19, let's be honest. He's 19. He's come into the season with a handful of first-team games, and when Willie Ese'ese was injured in the quarter-final of this competition, he's come in and played the last probably 7 or 8 games, and he's been absolutely fantastic. He's such a strong runner, such a strong ball carrier. One-on-one, he's an excellent defender, and I think he's scored in the last 3 games, and they've all been pretty similar. He is built to run over halfbacks.
Is there anyone you can compare him to in the NRL?
It's tough because we always talk about his comparison being Kai Pearce-Paul himself. They're very close friends and they worked really well together last year. But almost the Kai Pearce-Paul that we saw, who was strong, taking it into the line, could offload, and was an excellent defender again. So I suppose if you're talking about somebody currently over there, somebody maybe at the top of his game, you're looking at a real tall, strong running second rower who just batters into people, maybe like what Felice Kafusi has been.
Yeah.
And I'd love for him to have that sort of career, where almost you can give him a short ball and he'll crash over, or you can use him as a decoy, and a great defender, like I said.
Yeah, he looks really devastating. So, yeah, that's a really, really good one there. And then you guys had, 20 minutes of brilliance?
Yeah, Bevan French brilliance, really. It's a good job he wasn't rested. He's been far and away our best player this season, and he was again yesterday. He can create something from nothing, but he's really grown into the standoff role, what we call standoff, or in the NRL call 5'8". He's really grown into that role, having not played it ever until this time last year. And he's really organising the team now. He's developed a kicking game, but his running threat is still tremendous. He makes defenders miss for fun, and he can pick a pass to put a supporting player through, such as he did with Cruz Leeming yesterday.
It was frightening. I mean, I think it was the best performance I saw by any player, probably in the last month or so. NRL, wherever you look, it was that good.
Yeah, he was just as good, if not better, against Huddersfield 2 weeks ago. He just runs the game. When he gets like that, you just can't do anything against him.
Yeah. And we've been telling our guys, at the moment, I mean, this is barring yesterday, of course, Wigan would give many teams, NRL teams, a serious run for their money.
Yeah.
If you guys were in the NRL, where do you think you'd finish with your current team?
It's really tough to say. On a one-off game, we'd give anybody a decent game, and we'd beat many of the teams. We have a third of the salary cap. I think it might even be less than a third now that the NRL one has gone up. The problem we would face is if we were put into the NRL, we'd have to do it for 27 weeks a year, or 26 weeks, however many it is. And we wouldn't be able to do that. We wouldn't have the fitness or the intensity or the squad depth to compete every single week. If it was one-off, yeah, but if it was every single week, we wouldn't be able to. So we'd have to raise our game.
I was going to say, I just wanted to add to that, it's almost like two different sports, the level of intensity compared to the NRL. If you were to tell me that we could have 3 years to prep for it and we could play the NRL for 3 seasons, develop and get used to that type of rugby, I think we could be really competitive over a one-off season, and you're going to click your fingers and move us over there right now.
Yeah,
it would be difficult, but I certainly think the top 3 or 4 sides over here, if you give them a little bit of time out there just to get used to that and the week in, week out standard of it, I think they could definitely push the top 8 and be competitive every week.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that. If you had 2 or 3 seasons to bed in, I could see you comfortably in the top 8, potentially in the top 4, doing maybe what the New Zealand Warriors did last year, that sort of thing. Is that fair enough?
That's where I'd back us to be around round 5, 4, maybe just making the 4, maybe just missing it in that sort of area. And
then let's move on. So you guys managed to kick a drop goal, Adam Kieran, just before half time. Fantastic kicking across the board. Great drop goal.
Yeah, Kieran kicked 3 goals from 3. He's took over that in the last 5 or 6 weeks. Harry Smith kicked the drop goal. He's become Wigan's field goal taker, if you want to say that.
Yeah.
A little bit off the cuff, which was a surprise.
Yeah.
The way that the drop goal came about, but obviously it was very needed in the end.
I don't know how it came to that, because just before half time it looked like you could have put at least 30 or 40 on them.
Yeah, we have an ability at the moment to put tries on in bunches.
Yeah. Go
3-4 tries and then play in second gear almost. In terms of attack, I wouldn't say that we're going to have played an 80-minute performance yet with ball in hand. No. It's either been the second half or the first half that we've played well with the ball and then just been okay. But that's obviously going to have to be an 80-minute performance next week.
Yeah, why do you think that is, Matty? Why is that happening?
It's tough to do every week, and Wigan as a club have always been peak at the right time. Make sure you peak at the right time. You can't play your best rugby every single week. I do think the semi-final performance against Hull KR and then the performance in the league against Huddersfield the following week were both very good examples of our most complete team performances. I do think we're pushing for this cup final, and then you'll probably see a drop off again for us to try and have a late rally coming to September, October time. It's really difficult to be firing every single week. Well, it's impossible really. And I think you've got to time your peaks correctly. I do think had Ryan Hampshire, who was filling in for Jay Field in this game, had he held on to the chance we created down the left hand side, which was a catch it and fall over sort of try in the start of the second half, I think the game would have looked very different from that moment on. I think we'd have then gone 3 scores in front, and I think it would have killed Warrington's chance of a comeback. I think him dropping that ball, giving them 7 to a set, kind of gave them a bit more of a belief that they could win the game. And the longer it went on, and I'm sure we'll talk about the red card, once that starts to factor into it, you're giving Warrington a chance. I think if that try gets held on to, we're looking at a completely different game.
Yeah, are you guys more of a first half team or a second half team this season?
We've been both at various points. I know we blew away Hull KR in the semi-final in the first half, but before that, sort of Catalans and Huddersfield in the league, we've been second half teams. So it really isn't us being a first half or a second half team. We've been both at various points of the year, and like Tom said, we haven't really strung together a perfect 80 minutes, but we've had a few good games recently, and look, that side we put out yesterday was quite a bit different to what we'll put out on Saturday at Wembley. So to read, I wouldn't want to read too much into our performance yesterday. I think we'll be fit and ready to go for Saturday at 3 o'clock.
Okay. And Liam Marshall, he went down as well. He had a stunning try. And then what's the update on him?
He said he's fine. He's a big player for us as a winger. He's got 19 tries in 15 so far this year, and he always seems to score loads of tries for us on that potent left edge. Match-winning try in the Challenge Cup final 2 years ago. Match-winning try in the grand final last year. He's a really important player, local boy, and he really gets the team going. So he'd be a big miss if he weren't to play. Although I think he himself would say in 2017 we lost a winger on the morning of the game and he filled in, and that was a big moment for him. So there's always a chance for somebody if you're missing out. He said, however, yesterday that he expects to play. He said he's fine.
If he doesn't make it, who's covered there, Matty?
Well, it would ideally be a young player called Zach Eckersley, who can fill a number of positions. He played yesterday at centre. I think he probably will have to play centre because of the red card to Adam Kieran, but it would probably be him if everyone else is available. He's a really, really talented young player coming through. He can play wing, centre, full-back, he can play anywhere, he can play in the halves, and we really like him. He's the sort of player who, if it became fashionable to carry a back on the bench, which it isn't here, like it's starting to be in the NRL, if that sort of comes over here, he'd be the perfect guy to have coming off the bench because he can fill in 1 to 7.
All right. Shall we move on to the red card?
Yeah.
What did you make of that, Tom?
It's definitely a red card. There's no real defence for him. There's the argument that...
Would you mind explaining to the listeners just what happened for the red, so they can get a visual picture of it?
Yeah, so obviously from a scrum player in Warrington's own half, young lad taking the ball in, Kieran has lined him up. He's sort of got tackled from someone leaving the scrum, and he started to fall a little bit, but Kieran's then come in, leading with the shoulder. There's not really any arm wrap, contact to the head, and is pretty much what we've come to expect to be a red card. There's no real complaints from anyone that I'm aware of. It's almost certainly a red.
And there's no mitigation for that either, was it? It was pretty blatant.
Yeah, it's as obvious as they come. There is the fact he did fall slightly, but there was no arm wrap from Adam Kieran, which automatically puts you in bother whether you hit the head or not. So Matty Peet wasn't overly happy, and I don't think anyone at Wigan could complain.
And then the game started turning from there, didn't it, Matty? Briefly.
Yeah. I mean, we were lucky, I suppose, that there was only 10 or 11 minutes to go at that point. But yeah, really difficult to play with 12 men. And Warrington eventually broke us down. I think it was just defence against attack then. I do back our defence even with 12. We showed, even against St Helens, when we were with 12 men for almost 50 minutes, that we only conceded 2 tries then, and they were really late. I do back our defence, and I back our team to bail their own teammates out, because we've got that sort of a team at the moment, that they're going to bail Adam Kieran out when he gets red carded. So I did like the fight that we showed and the defence we showed to hang on. That Warrington eventually do score the try right under the sticks and kick the goal, but Wigan held on with that drop goal to end up winning 19-18.
It looked like the most unlikely way that they'd score that try through the middle.
Yeah, very weird try to concede.
Bizarre. And then you hang on to win by 1 point. Okay, so what's the plan for this weekend with Kieran out?
I would expect Ese'ese to just shift centres from left side to right side, obviously assuming that Marshall's fit.
Yeah.
And assuming he's banned, because we'll only find out tomorrow afternoon. We're all assuming he's going to be banned, but you never know with the judiciary system in our league. You never really know. It's a bit of a dice roll every week who's going to be banned and who's not. I think Warrington's centre, Roderick Tye, performed a similar tackle that was not picked up in the game. So is there a chance that he could face a similar punishment? And if I think I had to put my neck on the line and predict, I think they'd be the only 2 players banned, and I think Ese'ese would come in the right centre for Wigan.
I think you can thank Roderick Tye for his blunders yesterday. I thought he had a shocker. Really poor. I've seen him play in either the World Cup and or the Pacific Championships. I haven't been that impressed with him. How's he been doing in Super League?
Well, he's been doing okay. I think Connor Wrench is a talent for Warrington at centre, and of course they got Toby King, who played the other centre for them, who was on loan at Wigan last year. He's a lock for them every time they play with a full squad. He'll play, so they're kind of fighting out for that one spot. They've got Stefan Ratchford, who's really experienced, been at the club a long time. They've got Connor Wrench, who's a real good young player coming through, and they've got Tye, and those 3 have kind of split the appearances at that left centre spot so far this year, and none of them have been terrible, but none of them have been incredible either. So it'd be interesting to see who he picks in that spot if everybody's fit and everybody's not suspended. But I would expect it to be Tye, probably just.
Okay, Tom, let's talk about the Burgess factor. They look like they'd run through an absolute brick wall for him at the moment. Do you think he's the real deal?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I held my reservations up at the start of the season about Burgess, only because there seemed to be this thing that he would become in, because he was a brilliant player and a brilliant leader on the field, that he'd just transition into coaching. So I held my reservations until I saw a little bit more of him as a head coach. He's showing that they're playing for him. They obviously had a lot of issues with the coach last year, and he seems to have fixed a lot of the attitude issues and culture issues around the club. And he's a leader, he's a winner, and he's going to be a massive factor for Warrington coming into next week. He knows how to win things, and he knows what's expected, and he's sort of set that culture, fixing a lot of the issues at Warrington.
They look like they've got belief again, don't they, Matty? That's the main thing.
Yeah, they're a side that are playing for each other, and they're a side that genuinely look to enjoy their rugby league and look to have fun with it. Not just to believe they can win, they're having fun again. they look like a team that was under a load of pressure last year, and were trying to play a certain way that didn't really suit them. And I think the way Burgess has got them set up is very free. It's playing to the strengths of George Williams and Matt Dufty and Toby King, and look, he's got some genuine winners in there as well. And Williams is an excellent, outstanding player, and as long as he plays for a team, they've got a chance of winning. And now Dufty's becoming his partner in crime, you would say, where they're both playing really well together, and he's given them the keys, I think, to the offence.
They're playing an expansive style that I haven't seen for a very long time.
Yeah. Well, Salford played it a few years ago and got to the grand final playing it, probably 5 or 6 years ago now. But we don't tend to see it often here in this country, but it's good to see. Hull KR are playing something similar at the moment. We kind of pick and choose our moments as Wigan to be expansive, and we don't tend to take many risks inside our own end, but Warrington do, and it's certainly a tactic that seems to be working for them. They're a lot more expressive, and they're a lot more confident.
Are they focusing more on their left side attack than the right? I mean, because there was a theme at the Rabbitohs. I wonder if he's doing something similar there. I don't know enough, which is why I'm asking you guys that question.
I don't particularly think so. I think Thewlis has got a lot of tries, and Ashton's got a lot of tries, and that's their two wingers. So I don't think they're favouring one side over the other. George Williams is got a bit of a free role. He is playing more on the left when they've got the ball, but he is also popping up all over the field. And Drinkwater tends to stick to the right hand side, I think. But in defence, it's interesting that Drinkwater was on the left yesterday without George Williams.
Okay. Right, guys, let's move on to where you think the final will be won and lost. What are the areas that we need to look out for? What are the matchups that we're looking out for? How's it going to pan out? I'll ask Tom first. Sorry.
That's all right. The first matchup is for me, has got to be the two props that didn't play yesterday, Luke Thompson, Paul Vaughan. Both lead their teams, both dominate the packs, both dominate the meter making pretty much every week, and whichever one of them wins that respective battle, their side's going to have a real strong chance of winning this game.
Okay, Matty?
I'm looking at two edge players. I'm thinking about Junior and Semba trying to run over Josh Drinkwater again. I'm thinking about potentially Fitzgibbon trying to do the same over, well, it will be Bevan French on that side. So I'm thinking those two stronger in second rowers that have made a habit this year of running over people, it'll be whether or not one of those two can get close enough to the line and get a good enough matchup to try and get over the line themselves.
That's Lockie Fitzgibbon from the Knights, right?
Yeah, he's been running it in real strong at the start of this season. He's been playing on the left hand side for Warrington and doing pretty well.
He had an excellent season for the Knights last season as well. Lots of Newcastle fans were really upset that he'd gone. So he's done a really good job at Warrington, has he?
Yeah, he's been good. He didn't play yesterday. He was one of the ones rested. He'll be straight back into the side for the final. One of the key players, along with Vaughan, as Tom mentioned, the key players in the pack.
Those are two interesting matchups. What sort of tactics do you think? Do you think this is going to be high scoring or low scoring? I know what you're going to say historically, but I'm just wondering how you think the coaches will approach it.
Well, Challenge Cup finals are usually have more points in them than grand finals due to the weather. In the grand final usually being terrible, and the weather for the cup final usually being pretty good. And Wembley is a pretty big pitch, so there's going to be plenty of space for Matt Dufty and Jay Field. Let's just say that. So I think there's going to be points scored in this one. I do think there's going to be points scored. I think tactics will be, especially early on, I can't see either team taking many shots from their own half. I think they'll both be pretty secure with the ball and lean on some long kicks. I do think once the game opens up, you could see somebody like a Cruz Leeming try and speed up the game for Wigan, and George Williams try to do the same for Warrington, and then they'll start taking more shots. But I think it'll be a cagey opening.
Could this be a draw?
Very possibly. We've had a Golden Point final before between Leeds and Salford, I think it was, and so it's very possible it's going to end up being a draw. Two quality sides, and neither one of them will want to make a mistake, which will lead to, I think, people taking shots at goal, and that tends to lead to a closer game.
You can see what I'm getting at. Could Origin be a draw, and could this be a draw as well? Could be.
It could be. I think obviously last year we had a draw. Last year that went to Golden Point.
Oh, in the same final?
The final last year went to Golden Point, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So I doubt we could see two in a row. I'd be amazed if we had two in a row. But I wouldn't be saying that this is going to be I don't think this will be a 20-point winning margin. Whatever way it goes, I think it'll be somewhere around 4-8.
Okay, cool. Guys, let's move on and get the predictions in. So, Matty, who have you got to win? Who's your man of the match, and what do you think the score will be?
Yeah, I'm going to surprise nobody by going for Wigan. I think I'm going to go, let's say, 20 points to 16. And for man of the match, he's always a safe bet to be man of the match in a big game. Jake
I've got
Wardle.
B down. Oh, Jake Wardle. I was starting to write B there.
Yeah, for Bevan French, yeah.
Yeah.
Wardle tends to get it over him in the big games. Harry Smith's also a decent shout, but Bevan French could. If he turns up Bevan French, he will be the best player on the park. But that doesn't always necessarily give you man of the match in the Challenge Cup final. They tend to give it to somebody hard-working, because it's the Rugby League writers who award it after about an hour of the game. It's a really weird system.
Okay, so who have you got to win, Tom? And what do you reckon the score will be?
I'm obviously going to go Wigan.
Yeah.
Can never vote against Wigan.
Yeah.
I'm going to go something like we'll go 30 points to 26.
Nice.
Ooh.
And man of the match?
Man of the match, I'm going to go Harry Smith. Back on kicking duty, suspected, and I think he's going to boss the game.
He should have got man of the match in the grand final, shouldn't he? And then they gave it to Wardle?
Wardle got the man of the match in the grand
Yeah.
final. Harry Smith deserved the man of the match in the cup final 2 years ago, but they gave it to Chris McQueen because they were choosing it while Huddersfield was still ahead.
Yeah.
But Harry in big games, if he gets his kicking game right, especially the first couple sort of land where he wants them to land, Harry just controls the game.
I thought he was robbed. I thought he should have got it in the grand final.
Yeah.
And then they sort of rushed that award. They didn't give it out properly and changed the channel. What the hell was that about?
I'll just say, I know we mentioned it then, but this award is picked about the 65th minute of the game. Yeah. The reporters pick this, so they've got to go around and manually get all the votes. So have a look for who you're thinking deserves it after 65.
Good point. Can you remind me of that this year when it's a bit closer to the time? Might be quite useful.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a prediction. Guys, don't take this as gospel at all. But I'm going to say it's going to end 12-12. The man of the match is going to be my man, Harry Smith. Should have got it last time. And then there's going to be a winning field goal. Who's going to score that? It's got to be Harry Smith, hasn't it?
It's Harry Smith or George Williams, depends who you think's going to win.
It's Harry Smith, mate. It's 13-12.
I like that.
Let's hope it pans out that way. It's the Harry Smith show. Guys, awesome. So we've got one other thing for you guys, for the listeners. We've decided to do a double for you with one selection from Origin and one selection from the Challenge Cup final. Have you come up with something, guys, for this game?
We kind of like an anytime try score from each team.
Okay.
So I think we're going to go Jake Wardle and Matty Ashton to score anytime.
Okay. Are they singles or are you taking them together?
I'm taking them together.
Okay, so it's a double already.
Yeah, you do you though.
Okay, Jake Wardle and Matty Ashton. Are you guys doing this together?
Yeah, we had to work this one out.
We worked it out together.
So basically, the two that we've got are Angus Crichton and Joseph Sualihi.
Oh, I like that.
So we've got 4 in total. So maybe we'll come up with some combos, work out how we're going to skin this cat, work out the odds, and then we'll post it on Twitter for you guys. And we'll put it in the show notes on Spotify, just to see if we can carry this through to the weekend as well. That'd be quite fun.
Yeah.
Cool, guys. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
It'll be good to do this more often. And have a great time. You're going to the game, you're not playing cricket.
We are going to the game.
Nice.
Our cricket team will have to do without us this weekend. Captain and vice-captain going to Wembley.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, good luck. Have a really good time, guys. And yeah, let's do it again soon. Can you please let our listeners know how they can follow you?
Yeah, Twitter's our best shout. At the Wigan Way on Twitter, and then we post our weekly podcasts on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, talking about Wigan game, Super League, and the NRL, and doing some predictions too.
Perfect. And for any of your listeners that would like to find out more about us, you can find us on Twitter at the Snipers Club NRL, or you can go and Google the Snipers Club Linktree. You'll find all our socials on there, Spotify, Discord, and everything else, and you'll be able to connect to us that way. So you've been listening to the Snipers Club. Please like, share, and help our channel grow.